Hello, everyone. It's Andrea, and welcome to this edition of Talks in the Car. So, today I want to talk to you about unexpected miracles. Those times when we may be looking for something specific and God gives us something different, God allows something different, God gives us or blesses us with something that we weren't even looking for, we weren't even anticipating. And we don't necessarily understand the reason behind the blessing, the reason behind why God did what he did until years later. And then we have a revelation like, oh, that's why God did that. That's why God allowed that. That's why God directed in this particular area. So 23 years ago, I was asleep. It was probably about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and I was dreaming that I was in labor. And this dream went on, and going through the labor pains and what have you, only to wake up to realize that I actually was in labor. So I got up and got my family together. I was like, okay, it's time to go to the hospital. So prior to that, we had talked, his father and I had talked about, this precious baby when we found out that I was pregnant. And in our minds, we were having a girl. You get a 50-50 chance on what you get. You get a boy or a girl. Never in a million years did it occur to me that I could have a boy. My son's father already had a son, and so he desired a daughter. I desired a daughter. We had girl name picked out. We had girl things in the house. I had everything imaginable girl. And so when I went to my ultrasound and they said it was a boy, it was shocking to my system because, again, I knew that I was having a girl. I had grown up with a lot of girl cousins. I didn't have a lot of boy cousins growing up. I didn't have a lot of experience being around little boys at that time. And I was so fearful of what do you do with a little boy. I was concerned about potty training a little boy because, again, I didn't know too much about boys. I had girls. I was around girls most of the time, girl cousins, girl friends. Growing up, I had 2 boy cousins that were like brothers that were close to me. But then again, it was only 2. And so when it came up that I was having this boy, I had no idea what to do with myself. So, needless to say, had this precious baby boy. And as he began to grow up and as he began to develop, I could see aspects of his personality that God was using in order to minister to me. And it was a learning process when it came to this little boy. And so, again, fast forward, we're going to fast forward probably about 15 years. My dad got ill. And it became a point where it was a physical hardship. My dad was losing feeling and the ability to use his legs just because of the situation. So there were times when he would lose his balance, he would fall, or he did not have enough upper body strength in order to pull himself out in the bed. And not that I couldn't do it, because there were times when I did do it. But now I have this 16-year-old strong son who's able to literally pick him up, who's able to straddle him in the bed and pull him up to a sitting position. When it became a point where there were things that needed to happen with my dad physically, when he was needing to wear, adult undergarments and those kind of things, it was difficult for me as a daughter, to do some of the things. And again, you do what you have to do when you have to. But there were times when my son would step in and would help and would do things that would help protect my dad's dignity as a man. I can remember one time when I was really sick and didn't want to be in the room with my dad. At that point, we had moved into his home, and I didn't want to be in the room with my father because I didn't want his already compromised immune system to pick up anything and to have him go through any more illness than he was. So my son did it all. My son did changing. My son changed clothes. My son did undergarments. My son served me. My son changed sheets and did all that stuff while still in school, while dealing with his own he had migraine headaches at the time, so he was dealing with those challenges and with school and all of the things that kind of take up an adolescent, a young man's world. And as we were walking through that process, not to say that a girl would not have been able to assist, but the fact that I had a strong boy, God equipped him with the strength. He was tall. My son is about 6 feet at this point. He was tall then. He was probably, 5'9", 5'10", 5'11" at that point. 6 feet now. Strong upper body. He was starting to work out. He was starting to do different things. So he had the strength. He had the stamina. So God equipped him to be what was needed at the time. But then he also equipped me to be what was needed at the time. He equipped me with a son that was needed to do what needed to be done at that time. An unexpected blessing. As much as I was ready for this daughter and to be all prissy and to do all of the girl things, God blessed me with a son that was able to step in and be what was needed at that particular time. And so I wanted to just kind of encourage you with that. Sometimes we don't understand when God is doing things. We don't see the reason behind why God does what he does. We don't see the reason why God denied a situation. We don't see the reason why we prayed for this, but God gave us something else. Just know that God sees what we don't. God sees what's going on down the line, what's going up ahead of us. And God is able to help us and equip us and prepare us in ways that we don't see and we don't understand. The same way I just did not understand at the time, as much as I prayed for a daughter, God gave me a son. Here we are years later, and I see the blessing in the son. I see why God gave me the son that I have. And so as I celebrate his 23rd birthday on today, I'm just so thankful because God blessed me with a little person at that time that I was not anticipating. And as he's growing and as he's maturing in his manhood, I see the hand of God in his life. I've seen the things that he's walked through, the difficulties, the challenges, but yet God has put his hand on him. God has given him such a beautiful spirit of compassion. When he sees homeless people, when he sees people in need, he's that guy who's going to give his last. He's that guy who's going to root for the underdog. He has a David heart where he doesn't want to see anybody hurt. He's going to show compassion. He's going to show love. And some of that has to do with some of the journey that he and I traveled together as a single mom, and him being the son of a single mom, and we've traveled some things together. But in all of that, I see the blessing of God. I see the hand of God, and I am so grateful as I celebrate his birthday. He's away at school. He'll be graduating from college in a couple of weeks, and I'm so proud of him. And as I think about that, and as I reflect, and as I see where he has traveled, as I recognize where he and I both have visited, the things that we both have experienced, I am grateful and I am excited at the blessing that God has put in my life. I don't know what God has for us in store moving forward, but what I do know is that I can celebrate this level of blessing that God has shown me in his life now. And I anticipate even greater blessings coming from him as he, as I said, continues to grow in his manhood, as he continues to move forward in his career goals and in the things that he desires for his life. So while you may not understand what God is doing right now in your journey, know that there is a blessing that God is preparing you, that God has given you, that God is allowing you maybe not to see at that moment, but is in your possession, because God sees the beginning from the end, and he is always preparing us for what is ahead. Have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day, and we will see you next time on Talks in the Car.